WVON. Live from the Xfinity Studios, it's the station that America listens to. WVON, Berwyn, Chicago. It's Rufus Williams on Chicago's essential storyteller, WVON.
The views expressed on our programs are not necessarily those of WVON, Midway Broadcasting Corporation, or our participating sponsors.
If you're not out of the bed yet, then what are you waiting for? It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on 1690 WVON.
Every day you're walking by and I can see how you shine. Here I am alone with nothing but a dream that you are mine. Just exactly what I'll do, I don't know, baby, but I gotta find a way to reach you. Tell me what I gotta do to get to your house. Tell me where I gotta go to be with you. Tell me what I gotta say to speak to your heart. Tell me what I need to know tonight.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. We will not be held responsible for any accidents. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
The Audio Genius.
Get in on the conversation with Rufus Williams and the Morning Show at 591-1690. We are the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Good morning, and welcome to Tuesday. It is the 19th of May, the year 2026. It's the Rufus Williams Show. I am Rufus Williams, and as always, thrilled, delighted, and excited to be here with you this morning. And thank you so much for waking up with Rufus. Everybody's here. BJ is cracking jokes already this morning. Mamie's here. Titus is here. Ned is here. I'm here. You're here. Let's go learn something together. Annette, it is crazy in these streets. What is happening? Yesterday, another mass shooting in San Diego.
I don't know. Oh, wow. Heavy sigh. You know, I'm like, who put this story on repeat? This is happening over and over and over again. Now we're looking at a 17 and an 18-year-old who walks into San Diego's largest Islamic center and just start blasting people. And at the end of it all, 5 people end up dead, including a security guard. He was a beloved security guard there. They say his actions probably helped stop even more killing there. You know, it's just a tragic situation. Apparently, one of the parents said that she did notify police prior to this shooting, saying that her son had taken the car, he had taken some cash, and he had threatened suicide. And the police did respond to that, but it just wasn't fast enough, just wasn't enough information to stop this tragedy from happening. So now, again, we're looking at 5 people dead. That poor security guard, he was a father of 8, and he's gone. But what are we looking at socially? See, we're seeing, like I said, it's on repeat. Over and over again, these shooters are younger and younger, and we just got to figure this out because it is dangerous to go to church. So this is just not a good look. Even Chicago is on heightened alert right now because, you know, authorities do look at, you know, repeat incidents when things like this go public, but they have no motive. It's just a tragedy all the way around.
It is, truly is. And you think about how a 17 and 18-year-old can have this kind of hate in themselves, and why you become suicidal is a different matter. But to hate so deeply, to take weapons and go to shoot up a mosque, what ever could be in someone's mind that just takes them to that point. It really is troubling on so many levels, and at each point, it does beg the question of where can you go and feel safe in America in this day and age.
Right. I mean, the bar just keeps going up and up and up. So now this mother, she did the right thing. She contacted police. And just think, if she didn't, she right now would probably be, liable for this incident happening and maybe face charges herself. But luckily for her, or just sensibly for her, and just looking out for her son and the public, letting them know, I have a son who's talked about suicide, who's stolen the car and my guns, and he's out there loose somewhere.
We come back to these whole things, and each time I do come back to this issue of guns and what happens if we don't have them, and how do these things occur if we're not as liberal with guns being out. The mother did do the right thing, but again, where does such hate come from? And if she knew it in that moment, was it possible that there were some other signs? And how do you ever know when it gets that far? It's really dramatic, and it's just troubling on every single level. So yeah, we're here again. Unfortunately, we're here again, and it's only May, which means we probably will hear some other things that are tragic and troubling. But this one was really, really bad. And to your other point, the security guard, people have jobs, and we see them when we go into buildings, we go places, we go out, we go shopping, go wherever. And we see people who are there to protect, but they go to these jobs and they go home every night, and that's what they expect to do. This gentleman, who they said was the nicest person you'd ever meet, father of many, I think you said eight children.
Yeah, 8 children.
And they don't have him anymore. And all he did was go to work and go to work at a mosque of all places. And there would never be a reason that you would think that you're not safe, except the reason you have them is the reason that you have them. It's just unfortunate all the way around.
Rufus, and one more thing, we go to church, we go to public events, and it is changing our way of lives. I mean, how often I've done this, I've sat in church and I look at the exits, and I look at, the crowd of people, and, I go to Holy Name Cathedral, and I'm a lector there. So I'm at the podium, and I'm speaking, in front of our church holds 1,200 people. And I'm speaking in front of, it's sometimes 1,000 people. And I think about it, and, it's stressful, but I'm in a place of worship, and I'm worrying about a potential shooter. It's out of control.
It's out of control. Didn't want to start this way, but this was a lot to take, a lot to deal with. We got a lot more to talk about, and we'll do it when we come back right after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
VONtv brings stories in full bloom. See Martha's Vineyard versus DeSantis, a powerful documentary on politics, power, and human lives colliding, following migrant families fighting for justice beyond the headlines. And discover even more featured content on VONtv, films, series, and stories that keep the culture connected. Stream VONtv anytime on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, the WVON app, or at VON.tv. VONtv, for the culture, by the culture.
Hey Chicago, it's Sir Henry Cheatham, your Magnolia Blues man. The Chicago Blues Fest is back, and WVON is bringing the soul of the city with it. Join your favorite WVON personalities June 5th through the 7th at Millennium Park for this event. Friday night, we're celebrating 55 years of Alligator Records with tribute to Coco Taylor, Lonnie Brooks, Hound Dog Taylor, and Chris Stone, Kingfish Ingram. Saturday, we're bringing 75 years of Chicago blues to the main stage, featuring Chicago's own Billy Branch, Kenny Neal, and Ronnie Baker Brooks. And we'll close out the weekend on Sunday with the legendary Taj Mahal and the Phantom Blues Band. A special tribute to women in blues featuring Lynn Jordan and the Shivers, Melody Angel, and Deetra Farr. And keep listening for a chance to win an exclusive VIP Blues Fest experience. For more information, visit WVON.com/events. Brought to you by Mayor Brandon Johnson and DKs.
Kidney disease often develops silently, without symptoms. Knowing your risk factors, seeing your doctor regularly can make a life-saving difference, and that's your healthy reminder.
This healthy reminder is sponsored in part by the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois.
It's Matt McGill.
Matt, we did want to give you a little how do you do today. I'm from McGuire. How do you do, Matt McGill? How do you do? How do you do, Matt McGill? How do you do? You may think you're upper class, but you're just a horse's. How do you do, Matt McGill? How do you do?
Thank you, guys.
McGuire, you're welcome.
Matt McGill on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes, installation is easy, and they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
WVON traffic and weather now.
The inbound Ryan off to a 21-minute start from 95th Street into downtown. You do want to factor in a disabled vehicle. It is off to the shoulder of Roosevelt Road, but there are some gable delays. As you make your way along the Bishop Ford, Tuskegee Airmen Memorial, both in pretty good shape for now, moving along pretty close to the posted speed. DuSable Lakeshore Drive quiet as well. As you make your way along the Stevenson, right now we're looking at an inbound trip just at around 40 minutes. We're seeing some activity right now. Look out for a disabled vehicle. It's off to the right shoulder at Central. On the outbound trip, we're also seeing a crash at Cass. Along the Eisenhower, in from Thorndale to the Burns Circle, off to a 50-minute start. Outbound, you do want to look out for an accident at Gulf Road, that outbound trip 45, and the Kennedy. Right now, just about 40 minutes from O'Hare to downtown, getting to the airport, a 30-minute trip. Taking a look at our weather, a little cloudy right now. The National Weather Service says we're going to see some scattered storms, more scattered rain across the city today. We're looking toward a daytime high of around 76, a low tonight of 55. Currently it's 69 at Midway, 69 at South Shore, and 69 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm in Illinois on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. We will not be held responsible for any accidents. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. We're going to spend some time this morning recognizing something that does not ever get enough recognition, and that is the birthday of Malcolm X. Malcolm X would be 101 years old today had he lived. And when we think back to the times in the 60s, it was a lot of conversation. It was Malcolm, it was Martin. Dr. King certainly was revolutionary. He was a rebel. And his memory has been whitewashed in so many ways that it doesn't pick up the real places that he was really pushing hard for a lot of change. Malcolm, on the other hand, Malcolm wasn't soft selling anything. Malcolm was coming at you hard, coming at you straight in your face, coming right in on what was good, what was real, what was important. And there were, throughout all, some people who really believed in what Dr. King was saying, and a lot of folks who really believed in what Malcolm was saying. I think when you look at the files, if they've talked about the FBI files, he may have been the most watched person in what they have done. But he was quite a force. And you hear, think, or watch the Spike Lee movie featuring Denzel and Spike. It was really quite a life that he had. From its beginnings, from the killing of his father, his time in jail, and how he just became this spokesperson for Black liberation here, the spokesperson for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, went and did his Hajj and came back seeing things a bit differently, but not seeing things differently enough not to recognize what we were being put upon as a people. So we recognize Malcolm X today. as we do, as we should. And I recall just that period when he was total, it was fashion. And everyone was walking around with either a Malcolm X cap, a Malcolm X shirt, a Malcolm X necklace, but just the recognition of him. And so I don't want to lose any of that, while we certainly stop and celebrate the only holiday that's been named after a Black person with Dr. King. I do want to recognize Malcolm X in this process as well, because he was strong and inspiring in so many ways in our push for freedom while he was alive. And for both of them, for Malcolm, he left us much too early, and still remember how violent the 60s were, when it just seemed to be commonplace that we were losing people, and lost him as well to gun violence. But recognizing the life today of Malcolm X. Got a lot more to talk about. Titus and I do have to talk about sports, because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Okay, let's talk about it before we get to the calls.
Yes, the Spurs end up winning game 1 and a double overtime victory. That was a heck of a game. I didn't get much sleep last night either, so I probably seem a little off, but that's probably why. Yeah, it was a great game. It was a fun game, and I hope this goes 7 all the way, because it's been really great so far.
Yeah, it was only game 1, but man, what a game. 2 overtimes. I think Wemby was pissed.
Oh, big time.
This not getting the MVP. You know, I was thinking about it driving in this morning. I was thinking about Killmonger in Black Panther, when he looks over and says, "Is this your king? Is this your king?"
And that pose he did in front of the bench, I was thinking that same exact thing.
That was it. You know, what did he have? 41 points, 24
Yes.
rebounds. Man, quite a game. And you know, coldly stops and drops a 3 from the logo when they need it. It's just, yeah.
I'm a little bit of a hater on Wemby, just because of the fact is that I'm glad that he didn't get it, because he would have been the youngest MVP in NBA history. And that honor, I want Derrick Rose to keep that. So I'm a little glad that he didn't win. But he's going to win one next year. But I'm a little glad just because of that.
You know, I think he will win next. I mean, I would declare at this moment, because of the way he came back after not winning yesterday. Yeah, he says he believes he should have been the one.
And he took that personal.
It was personal. And he showed that this is personal. And that was in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Game 1. So, you know, blood is drawn when you win on somebody else's court. They went to Oklahoma and won on their court and said, okay, here we are. So the thoughts that Oklahoma is just going to go back and win another championship, not so clear this morning.
And it's funny, I was talking to the guys around the station yesterday, and they asked me, who do you think was going to win? I said the Spurs.
Really?
Yep.
What made you feel that?
I just liked them headed into this game. I felt like it was going to be a close matchup, and I thought Wemby was going to get them a problem defensively, especially if Chet Holmgren got into foul trouble, which he ended up doing. So I thought that would be the key to victory.
Yeah, it's something, you know, and I was watching saying, how do you guard a guy like this? But they did put a, you know, I would call him short. Everybody's relatively short to Wemby.
Yeah, that's true.
But all you can do is get down and try to keep him out of the post. But once he's long, and there's not a whole lot you can do at that point. So, so there you were, and he maintained actually a pretty good attitude. Maybe him getting thrown out of that game helps him to take some of the stuff that's coming to him, which he's going to need as he continues on really in his career.
Absolutely, you are 100% correct.
So yeah, it was. I wanted the game to be over because I needed to go to bed. And the other part of that is when you're that amped up after watching the game, you can't go to sleep when you go to bed.
Oh, not right away. So yeah, I definitely turned off everything, but I couldn't fall asleep.
Yeah, you know, and I've been taking my blood. I've been trying now. I'm listening to the advice we give. So I had a follow-up at my doctor from my annual. I went and did that last week. I'm supposed to keep track of my blood pressure. Titus, don't take your blood pressure when you're watching NBA game.
Oh gosh, no.
And don't take it, you know, this morning, Mike Wilbon was going to come on ESPN and talk about it. So I'm sitting there waiting for Mike to come on. They're showing highlights. And while I'm sitting there, I'm thinking I'm relaxed. Don't take your blood pressure then either, because it still gets amped up. You got to just sit. And I'm like, why is it so high? Well, that's why, because you put yourself right there in that space, and it's kind of hard to miss. But what a great start to this. And clearly, if there wasn't a rivalry before, which I think there was, because these two teams have been against one another for a number of times in the playoffs. So it's got to be. It may seem softer to us here in the Midwest, but it clearly exists. And if it didn't before, it certainly does now.
Oh, it definitely does now. And that's the thrill of it. That's what makes it even so much funner.
Indeed. So the next game is going to be everything. I see you guys there. I'm going to take calls when we come back. I do want to spend some time this morning. I didn't have an opportunity yesterday when we talked about Brown versus the Board of Education, but I know that there was a number of comments on the board, a number of callers that came in. Love to hear your thoughts on that this morning. We need to talk some about CPS. And I was really busy yesterday, including spending some time up at Francis Parker School, which was really interesting after having this conversation about Brown versus the Board of Education. And I'll tell you, because met some wonderful young people, heard from them yesterday. I always like to hear the college counselors talk about what's happening with the students at the end of the year. And that was yesterday as well. And so it just fits so perfectly on the other side of Brown versus the Board of Education when we talk about the statistics in CPS. And I tell you what these young people are doing from there. It's it's why you invest in them and spend the money that you do, because you get the outcomes that you get. And we have to figure out a way to equalize this system. Annette, what else is going on in the news? I'll be back with more. Take your calls right after this.
Scattered showers this morning. Right now, temperatures in the upper 60s. Good morning. I'm Annette Flournoy, and here's what's happening. Chicago police are increasing patrol at places of worship. This comes after a deadly mosque shooting in Orlando. 5 people are dead, including the alleged teenage shooters. This morning, investigators are still trying to figure out a motive. Apparently, one of the teen's mother reached out to police saying her son had taken the car, some guns, and talked about suicide.
Her son was with a companion, and that at approximately 11:43, that there was an active shooter at the Islamic Center.
Authorities say the teens, 17 and 18, walked inside the Islamic Center and started killing. 3 people were shot. Among those killed was a mosque security guard who police believe played a pivotal role in keeping the attack from being much worse. That guard was a father of 8. Funeral services are set for a veteran Chicago firefighter who died last week. Stephen Decker passed away Thursday during a training exercise. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office ruled his death from natural causes. A visitation for Decker will take place Thursday at Colonial Wojciechowski Funeral Home. And NFL leaders are meeting in Orlando today, and the Bears are expected to update the league on where things stand on Arlington Heights versus Indiana for a new stadium. Today's meeting is happening as lawmakers in Springfield are still debating the mega project bill that could give the Bears a tax break to build in Arlington Heights. Mayor Brandon Johnson hasn't given up on his pitch to keep the Bears in Chicago. However, that idea frustrates the governor.
Has come up with no plan at all about how the Bears would end up in the city of Chicago. So that's problematic. I'd love them to be in the city, but we're 3 years in now and he still has no plan.
The mayor's office says Johnson does not support a privately owned stadium, and the city's proposal is the only plan that centers on public ownership that won't burden taxpayers while keeping the Bears in Chicago. And Chicago Alderman Jesse Fuentes is suing the Trump administration for $100,000 over being detained by federal immigration agents last October. Fuentes filed a lawsuit claiming agents shoved, threatened, and unlawfully detained her last fall. The incident happened in Humboldt Park during Operation Midway Blitz. Fuentes says she suffered physical and psychological and emotional injuries. That's a look at our news now on 1690 WVON. Traffic and weather up next. WVO News Time, 7:33.
This Juneteenth, the Obama Presidential Center opens to the world on Chicago's South Side. The ancestors are proud. We're WVON.
This is Rufus Williams, and I've got something special for you. I am proud to announce that we're launching the Rufus Williams Travel Club in conjunction with Advantage International. Our first trip, we're staying in the United States and heading to one of the most stunning destinations for culture to cuisine. Join us October 8th through 12th as we explore the charm, the beauty, and the history of Charleston, South Carolina. This isn't your typical getaway. We're walking through history and standing where our stories began. From the roots of Gullah Geechee culture to the International African American Museum, from cobblestone streets to waterfront views, this is more than a trip. It's a cultural vibe. To find out more, visit WVON.com and click the Rufus Williams Travel Club banner. And keep listening for more details. The Rufus Williams Travel Club will turn curiosity into understanding, one destination at a time. We are WVON.
When your body needs real nourishment, don't settle for ordinary supplements. At the Aloe Shop, we believe wellness starts with nature. That's why our premium aloe and nutritional products are crafted with the highest standards, pure, potent, and made to support your health from the inside out. From digestion and energy to immune support, the Aloe Shop helps you feel your best every day. The Aloe Shop at 117 East 95th Street in Chicago. Call 866-256-3747 or reach us online at thealoeshop.com. Come on in and get healthy. Now available at Living Fresh Market in Forest Park and at Pete's Market throughout Chicagoland.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, and family history of kidney failure. All three put you at risk for kidney disease. We are at increased risk and should get screened. This is host LaDonna Ray. Every Tuesday in May at 3:30 p.m. during our health and wellness campaign, the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois will talk with us about kidney health, treatment options, free health screenings, and more. Tune in Tuesdays at 3:30 p.m. and go get screened. Visit kidneymobile.org or call 312-321-1500. That's 312-321-1500.
Hey, it's Cleopatra Draper. Join me for the Midday Show weekdays at 9 a.m. where we'll sip and spill all the tea. Do you want it hot or cold? Either way, we're serving up the flavor of the day. Weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on the station giving you what's now and what's next. 1690 WVON.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes. Installation is easy, and they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
WVON traffic and weather now.
We're starting with the inbound side of the Stevenson. Right now, that travel time just bumped up to an hour 10 from I-355 to DuSable Drive. That's mainly due to an accident involving two semis. Right now, 3 lanes are blocked at Cass, and apparently one of those semis is leaking fuel. The outbound side of the Stevenson, already a 40-minute trip as well. That's due to some gable delays because of the accident at Cass. Turning to the Ryan, almost a 30-minute trip from 95th Street to downtown. We're looking at a new disabled now blocking the left shoulder at Roosevelt Road. Getting to the Ryan along the Bishop Ford, Tuskegee Airmen Memorial, things are still fine. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, things are pretty quiet still. If you're on the Eisenhower, things bumped up pretty quickly. An hour in from Thorndale to the Burns Circle. Outbound an hour, factor in that earlier accident at Gulf. And as you make your way along the Kennedy, a 51-minute trip from O'Hare to downtown. Getting to the airport, a slow-moving 50 minutes. Taking a look at our weather, cloudy skies. The National Weather Service says we could see more scattered showers this morning. Temperatures topping out in the mid-70s, dropping down to the mid-50s tonight. We're at 69 at Midway, 69 in Morgan Park, and 69 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Flournoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
If you're not out of the bed yet, then what are you waiting for? It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. As we talk about Malcolm X, Ron Carter is telling us that the Illinois Senate unanimously passed the resolution for the official holiday designation, where the law sponsored by former State Senator Jacqueline Collins officially designated May 19th, 2015, and every May 19th thereafter as Malcolm X Day. So In the state of Illinois today is Malcolm X Day. I know there's also, as he points out, a gathering this evening at Cocoa where they're looking to name a street after Malcolm X. And so there's still a number of folks who are recognizing and still pushing for the proper recognition of this great man. One of his epic lines that you'll remember from his movie, it was delivered during an address he gave on November the 10th of 1963 at the Northern Negro Grassroots Leadership Conference in Detroit, Michigan, where he critiqued something there that we should and still critique today. But he was critiquing how Black Americans had historically been manipulated and pacified by political leaders who failed to deliver on their promises. And you recall the lines where he said, "You've been had, you've been took, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok." When Denzel says it in the movie, it's just so clear and so profound. Spike did a wonderful job of bringing Malcolm's life and his story to the front. I said I'd take some calls, so let me do that. Brother Hall, good morning and welcome to VON. What's on your mind this morning?
Good morning, Brother Rufus. Thank you so much for sharing that about Malcolm and his participation. Certainly, we miss that brother and all of what he's done and who he was. So let me move on, though, Brother Rufus. I was sad to know that we still have not got a grip on our situation with our young people. Now, Rufus, let's rewind the tape for a second if we can. We no longer, or we have it, but I don't know the strength of it. And I'm speaking of Pyramid West, Nancy Jefferson, Joe Banks, that group, Operation Push, the NACP. I can go on and on and on of the groups who participated to make sure back in the 60s that because young folks had pretty much the same problem, that there was some activities, some jobs, and service providers for them. I don't see that. And maybe you see what I don't see. What I suggest is that we stop talking about it so much and do something about it. Why do we need to do that? Because if we don't, somebody else will control the narrative of that situation. And all of a sudden now our kids are thugs. Now, what happens when they're down there? I don't agree with it. If they're acting crazy and tearing up and this, that, and the other, then we need to find a way to deal with that. But our children need the same thing as what they have in these other areas. See, back in the day in the 60s, Rufus, and you know this, brother, the archdiocese, the agencies that I mentioned, these delegate agencies, we made sure, man, that we were all on one accord. We were all talking about our young people and stepping up to the plate to do what we needed to do for our young people. And many of them folk today turned out to be productive citizens. But many of them went through the same thing that these young people are going through today. So I ask you, brother, as someone that many of us respect, I do, I have much respect for you. I would hope that you would consider moderating something, and maybe we get a think tank group to sit down and see behind the scenes what we can do to put a town hall together, brother, because this is going to explode. Lastly, let me say this. How do I know that? Because if we're doing nothing but just talking about it and we are not moving forward on trying to do something about this, then it's going to explode. Our young people deserve the same goods and services of any other community. I'm sorry that it's happening, but we need to be about the business of trying to change that. Thank you so much for taking my call. Much love and respect.
Thank you, Brother Hall. Appreciate you for elevating that. And I heard you loud and clear Last week, I went over to one of our schools to talk to the principal over there for a number of reasons. Included in that was having a conversation with young people. Even in here, I had a sister on a couple of weeks ago, and her daughter was with her. And she hit me back yesterday because we talked again with her about having young folks come on and let's figure out directly from them what's going on as opposed to talking about them in the abstract. So there is work to do, one, with and around for us to claim the places that we say that we are as adults in this process. You mentioned a number of the civil rights organizations, haven't had much contact with them, but yeah, this needs to be all hands on deck for a lot of reasons. We've got a lot of issues that we need to deal with. Pam, good morning. Welcome to VON. What's on your mind this morning?
Good morning, Rufus. You talked about a lot of children and a lot going on just in the world. Condolences to the families at the Islamic Center, and I'm just wondering, is that going to get as much coverage as when synagogues and other churches are attacked? Rufus, you talked about. Let me just say this because this is important to me. Yesterday, I heard Maria Pappas. She talked to a man, and he talked about the trauma and the issues in his life and the difficulties, but he was working through them, had come through, and then and still trying to be uplifting and motivational, trusting God and living life. And then Maria Pappas came back with a comment. I'm glad to hear you doing that, sir, and you sound happy. And then she said, I just wish people would stop coming on and complaining on VON. Those were her words. Now, I'm just going to say this to Maria Pappas. I don't know what callers you were talking about complaining or what complaints, but this is what I'm going to say to her and every other white person. For me, it's an insult when you come on Black airwaves and tell Black people to stop complaining. Until you walk a mile in my Black skin and face what I face as a Black person, you don't get the right to say that. I know where Maria Pappas is coming from, in my opinion. Didn't want the target, now she's running for mayor. So she's part of that cabal that wants to get rid of a Black mayor. So that's where, so I'm just asking her and every other Black person, don't you dare tell Black people don't complain. Because right now we're under assault by a person in the White House that she probably voted for. Next, I'm going to move on to our children. Rufus, when Brown versus the Board of Education, when that ruling came down, unconstitutional segregation, there is no separate but equal. There has been a consistent attack on public schools, in the public school system. And we've seen it from then until now. Now, I put everything that I have on the line, my life, that if the public school system were predominantly white, they would have all of the resources, everything they need. We have a white racist country that does not want to educate brown and Black students. And with their public dollars, their tax dollars, absolutely not. And so there has been a consistent fight. So I would like to see this experiment because, Rufus, you talked about the schools that are working. We know we have schools that are working and excelling. I'd like to see the principal and the staff of those schools be assigned to some of the lower performing schools and see, what shifts we would see in terms of grades and reading scores. Because right now, tell me, how do you move a student who is 8 years old in third grade and can't read? How are you going to help that student read in a classroom of 28, 30, 32 students? The student-teacher ratio, as I've last looked, I think 25-1 is the ideal situation for learning. So we're talking about the very basics. And then we're talking about the teachers union. People criticize them day in and day out, but I see them trying to fight for some things for students. They're not perfect, but I don't know any other organized organization that is fighting to try to get people in elected office and do something about the educational system that is going to help our young people. Parents play a pivotal role. But Rufus, I've said for years, because I've been in the school system. I'm a product of public school, been in the public school system, functioned in there with a community organization. So I'm seeing firsthand, if the parents can't do it, Rufus, then what? See, we can call out the parents, arrest the parents. Okay, do that. Then what? If there is no extended family, if you have developmental delays and see, there is a whole lot that goes into the education of children, and that we're not looking at the whole entire picture. And yes, it takes some funding and money, and the corporations, wealthy tax people don't want to pay. We already know that. Lastly, Epstein victims are still testifying before before the House Representatives. Oversight is still going on. I just found out about 20 banks, when they say follow the money, finance this wealthy sex trafficking ring. We talk about the murder of our children. That is crucial. But is the rape of our little girls and boys, is that important? Because you have someone who's been have credible allegations of rape of a minor. And black maggots, white maggots, all maggots just act like it's okay. Nothing, no problem. We have Trump derangement syndrome because we don't want a rapist in the White House. But so those hearings are still going on. I'm asking people, please pay attention, because the cover-up is real. And it's been covered up over decades. And it's shameful. And so now we're having to move forward with all this. So we have a lot on our plate. Freedom is gone. Black people under assault. So for all you white people, go talk to these racist white folk out here who are, in fact, leading this charge.
All right,
and as
Pam,
we talk about, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just need to go to break. I'm a little bit behind, but I wanted to make sure you got your points out and appreciate all of them. We'll be back more right after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Hi, I'm Lori Smith, host of Meeting the Moment. WVON, in partnership with the Chicago Community Trust, developed Meeting the Moment to amplify the voices of nonprofits across Chicagoland, giving them the communication tools they need to expand their reach and turn awareness into action. Right now, our communities are facing real challenges, from economic uncertainty to public safety to access and equity. But in the middle of it all, there are organizations doing the work quietly, faithfully, powerfully. With Meeting the Moment, we'll have honest conversations about the issues shaping our region and, more importantly, the solutions happening on the ground. And each week, we'll feature a Chicagoland nonprofit making a difference. You'll hear their story and find out how you can support their work, because Meeting the Moment is about more than just awareness. It's about impact. Join the Meeting the Moment movement, a program designed for the doers. For more information, visit WVON.com/Meeting the Moment. Listen every Saturday at 12 noon right here on WVON 1690, the Talk of Chicago. Let's meet the moment together. Powered by the Chicago Community Trust.
Tuned in to your favorite WVON personalities on Facebook Live? Don't just watch, like it, love it, share it. Every click helps us grow the conversation and keep the community strong. So remember, like it, love it, share it, Chicago.
It's D.L. Hughley.
When you see things like what happened in Virginia, where they had a special election and expanded seats for the Democrats, Republicans have been putting their fingers on the scale of the elections forever. They've always done it. They've always gerrymandered. But now they have gerrymandered everything to the nth degree that they don't have any more room to gerrymander. And now these Democrats have picked up 10 to 12 seats. Even after this is all over, we got to get back to people who are involved in the pedophile ring. We got to get back to ICE brutalizing people. So the war is a distraction, but from some pretty horrible that we got to get back to.
Weekdays at 5 a.m. on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Have you checked out WVON's digital streaming network, VONtv? It's everywhere on Roku, Apple TV+, Amazon Fire, on the WVON app, and at VON.tv. VONtv, it's cultural content on purpose.
This is Khomeini Khan, certified financial planner professional. For the past year, I've been on a mission to change lives and build wealth in our community. Together, we're changing the paradigm. This year, I'm back with a new series, Wealth Strategies Money Talks. Join me every Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. on the Rufus Williams Show as we have thoughtful discussions around building wealth in our community. We'll discuss topics like investing, savings, tax strategies, retirement, and all things money. Yes, that's Tuesday at 8:30 a.m., so set those alarms. Also, be sure to check out the podcast at WVONwealthshow.com.
Khomeini Khan is a certified financial planner professional with Optimal Planning Partners in alliance with Equitable Advisors, LLC member SIPC in Oak Brook, Illinois. For more information, please call 630-575-5046.
This report is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Don't let data limits hold you back from being the GIF master in the family group chat. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get Unreal Unlimited data on a reliable 5G network. Straight Talk, available at Walmart or straighttalk.com.
WVON traffic and weather now.
The inbound Bishop Ford just woke up. You're now looking at a 19-minute trip in from I-8094 to the Ryan. Slow right around the Stony Island Theater. Tuskegee Airmen Memorial, a 20-minute trip in from I-80. Stop and go from 111th Street in. Once arriving at the Ryan, you're looking at a slow-moving 35-minute trip from 95th Street into downtown. DuSable Lakeshore Drive activated as well. Now a 20-minute trip from 67th Street to Jackson, Hollywood to Monroe, an 18-minute trip. If you're on the Stevenson, pretty much solid right now. Looking at almost an hour from hour 20. That's an hour 20 from I-355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. That's all due to that earlier crash at Cass. That crash involved two semis, one leaking fuel at the moment. We're still seeing some lane blockage right there at Cass. As you travel outbound, just about a 50-minute trip. That's due to Gaper delays. If you're on the Eisenhower, you're looking at an hour 2 from Thorndale to the Burns Circle, an hour traveling out. And the Kennedy, still that 51-minute trip from O'Hare to downtown. Getting to the airport now, nearly an hour. Taking a look at our weather, cloudy skies. The National Weather Service says we could see more scattered rain before it's all said and done. Daytime high climbing near 76. Our low tonight, 55. We've made it up to 70 at O'Hare. It's 70 in Avalon Park and 70 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Flournoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. We will not be held responsible for any accidents. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. I think before we get to the next break, I may have time for one more call. Ziff, good morning and welcome to VON. What's on your mind?
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Fine.
I'm excited to talk to you and wish you well and to say hello to the family. But I want to give a quick report because you said we don't have much time. I was at the preview of the Obama Library, President Obama's library the other day. And Rufus, you're talking about a wonderful edifice of recreation, history, library that is unbelievable. So what I'm telling parents to do, if you got little kids and you want something for them to do, take them over to the Obama Library. The outdoors plaza is unbelievable. There's so many things that we're going to be able to do, and I'm so excited about the President's Library. And I just wanted everybody to say it's something that we should all embrace and expand on. And Mr. Williams, I appreciate you so much for what you do.
Was if we needed that call. Thank you so much for giving it and bringing it. In fact, I am going to visit the Obama Presidential Center today. So I'll give my report, and which I'm sure will be as glossy as yours on tomorrow after I get a chance to go down and see it up close and personally. There is, I do want to get this in though. I did yesterday. A couple things. Matt, how did you say the mayor is expected to come on with Matt today?
Yes, I do have confirmation that is happening this today.
Okay, so you want to tune in as this conversation continues on. One, about what's happening with our children, and two, about what's happening with the Bears, because these stakes are getting higher and it's being laid out. And the governor did make some statements yesterday about what Chicago and the mayor has not done. So I'm sure Matt and the mayor will have a conversation about that. I am in conversation with the governor's people. So it may not be this week, but I'm thinking maybe next week we'll have an opportunity to talk to Governor Pritzker and see the other side of, at least his side of where these things are. It's not even the other side because the Bears are the other side. So we'll see where that goes. Yesterday was just the beginning of conversation on education. We will have much more talk. We've got elections coming up this year, 21 people, 20 board members, one president, members being elected from each of the 10 districts, the president being elected citywide. We have a new CEO in Chicago Public Schools, and there are some real decisions that have to be made as we look at what's happening there. I went through, and I will tell you, CPS does not break down how much money is being spent by school within the system. It's always just going to be an average number. But when we start to look at these underutilized schools within this system, Frederick Douglass Academy has 27 students. It has a capacity for 1,008. That's a 3% utilization. Little Village Lawndale, 83 students with a capacity of 920. Dyett has 130 students with a capacity of 1,214. Manly Career Academy, 146 students enrolled with a capacity of 1,245. Robeson, 149 students with a capacity of 1,133. Julian High School, 233 students with a capacity of 1,660. Harlan, 243 students with a capacity of 1,506. Orr High School, my alma mater, 266 students with a capacity of 1,474. Hirsch Metropolitan High School, 275 students with a capacity of 1,300. There's a tremendous amount of unutilization within this system. I can simply say I've been at Orr. I spoke at their graduation last year. I have a wonderful principal at Orr High School. And a lot of the school, the other capacity has been taken over by, I think it's KIPP Charter School. So they've taken up quite a bit of the building that we used to be in. So the high school itself is pushed to a much smaller space, within this school when it was fully utilized when we were there. So
yeah, Rufus, I'm a graduate of Julian High School, and my graduation class came in with over 800 people. Maybe 300 of us graduated. So hearing only 250 just really shocked me.
Yeah, that's where we are. So we look and think about this fact that we are down just over 300,000, I think 312,000 students in the system. There were 420,000 when I was at the board 15 years or so ago. The children have gone, and they've gone from these schools. And so within each of these schools where there's been the push to make sure you have obviously a principal, an assistant principal, a nurse, a counselor, you're going to look at it, you've got more administration than you do students in some of these places. And some decisions have to be made. And they're not even hard decisions, they're real decisions that have to be made. But we'll get to more of this as time goes on. Let's find out from Annette what's in the headlines, what's in Black Information News. I'll have more for you when we come back after this.
Cloudy and muggy as temps remain in the 70s on this Tuesday. May 19th, 2026. I'm Annette Ferdoyan in the headlines. Chicago police are increasing patrols at places of worship following a deadly mosque shooting in Orlando. And we just learned this morning that Mayor Brandon Johnson will be on the WVON Matt McGill show later today. The mayor hasn't given up on his pitch to keep the Bears in Chicago. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office is launching a new task force to combat crime on public transit. National news from the Black Information Network is next on Chicago's original social media platform, 1690 AM WVON Berwyn, Chicago. It's 8:03.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Self-care is healthcare. Rest, boundaries, laughter, and peace all matter more than we admit.
Your health, our community, for WVON.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes. Installation is easy, and they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
This is Rufus Williams, and I've got something special for you. I am proud to announce that we're launching the Rufus Williams Travel Club in conjunction with Advantage International. Our first trip, we're staying in the United States and heading to one of the most stunning destinations for culture to cuisine. Join us October 8th through 12th as we explore the charm, the beauty, and the history of Charleston, South Carolina. This isn't your typical getaway. We're walking through history and standing where our stories began. From the roots of Gullah Geechee culture to the International African American Museum, from cobblestone streets to waterfront views. This is more than a trip. It's a cultural vibe. To find out more, visit WVON.com and click the Rufus Williams Travel Club banner. And keep listening for more details. The Rufus Williams Travel Club will turn curiosity into understanding, one destination at a time. We are WVON.
Tune in every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for Speak On It with Dr. Kofi Malik. You've seen him on cable TV. Now hear his spirited conversation on the Talk of Chicago. The question at hand is raising voices of the Negro. That plain and simple. Tune in every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for Speak On It with Dr. Kofi Malik on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Live from the Xfinity Studios, it's the station that America listens to. WVON, Berwyn, Chicago. It's Rufus Williams on Chicago's Essential Storyteller, WVON.
You wonder how I do it. It's just one simple rule. I'm just cool. Honey, baby, can't you see? Girl, I'm so cool. Ain't nobody bad like me. Hey. R-U-F-U-S. What's that spell? R-U-F-U-S. I'm just cool. Honey, baby, can't you see? Girl, I'm so cool. Ain't nobody bad like me. Sing it, baby. R-U-F-U-S. What's that stand? R-U-F-U-S. That spell cool. Cool. The audio genius. The audio genius. The audio genius.
Welcome back. You know, I do this segment series on VONtv called Bound and Woven. And every now and then, and we're ramping it up quite a bit, actually. So we're looking to put up 2 additional interviews each week for certainly the next month. But we keep producing them, so it may continue on. I did another one just as recently as yesterday, and we'll do a couple more before this week is over. But last week, or I don't even know if it was last week, recently I had an opportunity to talk to this gentleman, Jasper Craven. His book is titled God Forgives, Brothers Don't: The Long March of Military Education and the Making of American Manhood. It's available on VONtv today, but I want to give you some sense of what that conversation was like here. Welcome to Bound and Woven, the conversation where books, ideas, history, politics, and culture intersect, because smart conversations with smart people make us smarter. I'm Rufus Williams. Today's conversation is not comfortable. It is not designed to make us feel good. It is designed to make us think. For generations, America has wrapped military culture in the language of discipline, patriotism, honor, courage, and manhood. But what happens when the institutions shaping masculinity also normalize violence, hierarchy, emotional suppression, domination, misogyny, and the dehumanization of the other? What happens when the military designed to create soldiers begin shaping the culture itself? And what does it mean with military ideals despite American politics, education, masculinity, and even identity? Our guest argues that this story did not begin yesterday. It stretches from the founding of America through West Point, ROTC programs, military academies, the Cold War, Vietnam, the forever wars, all the way to the modern political moment we are living in now. Joining us is investigative journalist Jasper Craven, author of God Forgives, Brothers Don't, a provocative and deeply researched examination of military education, masculinity, power, and the making of manhood. Jasper, welcome to Bound and Woven.
It's my pleasure.
Well, good to have you. This is quite a powerful book. The title alone is explosive. God Forgives, Brothers Don't. What does that phrase mean in the context of your book?
Well, for many years, God Forgives, Brothers Don't was the motto of West Point's vaunted football team. I think it really perfectly encaptures the sort of punishing dynamics that exist at military schools and in the military writ large. But the extra wrinkle here is that the motto was borrowed, intentionally or not. It's unclear, from the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, a neo-Nazi prison gang. It was their Omerta code. And, interestingly enough, this white power gang adopted many of the sort of cultural signatures of military life. They had a military style hierarchy. There was a certain expectation of loyalty and of violence. And so the book, the title sort of nods at, the sort of punishing dynamics that pervade military life, but also the really dark history at West Point and other places of, pretty flagrant white supremacy and dehumanizing hazing.
It ties into so many different things about our culture, as you described, going back to the beginning. So at the core of this work that you've done, and I'm going to get back to this whole issue of white supremacy and where that fits in our society, but what is the argument that you're making about military education and American masculinity?
Yeah, well, as I see it, as I look to my own life, my educational path has really profoundly shaped who I am. I was, lucky to go to good public schools, attend college, be exposed to the humanities, other languages, other histories, the great authors. And it was through all of those experiences that I came to see the world in my own specific way. Really, education is the most important tool in sort of facilitating growth from child to adult. And the Pentagon has long understood this. From the earliest days of America, there were sustained efforts to build a sprawling military educational complex that could appeal to, historically young boys and, at the sort of base level, create a reliable source of men for the elite officer class. This network today is sprawling. I mean, I think many people, when they hear military school, may think of the big service academies like West Point or Annapolis, or maybe the sort of like quasi-military style troubled teen schools, you know, back in like the Cold War, it was common if you had a misbehaved boy to maybe funnel him into military school and you know, inculcate him with some discipline. But the fact of the matter is that there are dozens of these schools across the country teaching, you know, mostly boys still from ages 10 and 11 all the way through college. There's also 5,200 ROTC and JROTC programs at American high schools and colleges. Then there are sort of other related programs like the Boy Scouts, the Young Marines, that collectively have influenced how boys learn and how boys think of themselves and how boys set goals in life in very profound ways.
So given all that, I mean, it would seem that masculinity in America was not inherited culturally, but this was intentional in its construction. Who would have been responsible for building that model of manhood, and why?
Well, you know, the country we know and love today was launched out of a real bitter hatred, I would argue, of military occupation, of, you know, British imperialism. And so the early founding fathers and the early citizens, the early white citizens of this country, were very skeptical of military power. There's a lot of writing in the Federalist Papers about the need to never elevate the soldier above the citizen. And yet, at the same time, what became abundantly clear in the early years of the Revolutionary War is simply that, you know, the colonists did not have the skills and the discipline to beat back this massive, well-trained imperial force. And so what you see in these early days are people like General George Washington, his close advisor Henry Knox, and others really concocting plans to professionalize the military from the ad hoc militias of the day. And as part of that, there needed to be some sort of appeal. And they very smartly sort of fused together core ideas around masculinity with the sort of fundamental needs of a military. You know, when you think about strength, service, sacrifice, I mean, these are sort of the ballyhooed ideas of American masculinity in general today, but there are, you know, very clear military objectives wrapped up in these big ideas. And, you know, Washington, again, in sort of a sort of complicated turn of events, was at once eager to maintain his status as a mere mortal. He did not want to be elevated or deified like a king. And yet at the same time, he nurtured all of these myths about his own strength and cunning and fearlessness on the battlefield. I mean, the truth of the matter is that Washington, you know, had a pot belly and a pockmarked face. He was sort of a strange looking fellow with a small head, and he wasn't even particularly a great military planner, as he acknowledged to the Continental Congress early on. But of course, those around him, once this war had been won, in large part, I should say, thanks to the support of the French, who were very well disciplined and who had sort of pioneered military education, he allowed his ego to sort of get in the way. And so, you know, countless young boys looked up to Washington and wanted to be like him. And, you know, I mean, there were 2 funerals for him upon his death, military style funerals with much pomp and procedure. You know, he was taken through the city of Philadelphia on a horse-drawn cart in a ceremony similar to what Genghis Khan experienced upon his passing. And so really early on, you can see the sort of brilliance in forging an American masculinity that could at could simultaneously feed the insatiable appetite of America's burgeoning military industrial complex.
We'll be back. More of my conversation with Jasper Craven on his book, God Forgives, Brothers Don't. It's all available on VONtv today. He'll be back with more right after this.
Drinking enough water helps your kidneys function properly and supports your body's natural filtration system. And that's your healthy reminder.
This healthy reminder is sponsored in part by the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois.
Smart conversations with smart people makes us smarter. And that's exactly what you get on Bound and Woven with Rufus Williams. This isn't surface level talk. This is where authors become experts, where books become blueprints, and where ideas are challenged, not just discussed. From Colin Woodard on Nations Apart, to Gloria J. Brown Marshall breaking down the history of protests in America, to Gary Tyler sharing a story of resilience and redemption and stitching freedom. These are not interviews. These are conversations that matter, because every book has a story and every story has a deeper meaning. Bound and Woven with Rufus Williams on VONtv. You can catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV Plus, the WVON app, and VON.tv.
Have you checked out WVON's digital streaming network, VONtv? It's everywhere on Roku, Apple TV Plus, Amazon Fire, on the WVON app, and at VON.tv. VONtv, it's cultural content on purpose.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
I was having a medical procedure, and I wanted to ensure my kids would get my home should something happen to me. I called attorney Ted London. He provided the land, trust, and power of attorney. Now my kids will not have to go through the probate process.
After the death of my husband, I had to get my affairs in order. I called attorney Ted London. Now my family and home will not have to go through the probate process.
773-721-3333.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes, installation is easy, and they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
Catch Reverend Al Sharpton online at WVON.com or on the WVON app. Just click the Al Sharpton banner. Tune in every day at 12 noon for your daily dose. And if you miss it, catch the overnight replay from midnight to 3 a.m. We're keeping it real with Al Sharpton on WVON 1690.
Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real.
Hey, Chicago, it's Sir Henry Cheatham, your Magnolia Blues man. Chicago Blues Fest is back, and WVON is bringing the soul of the city with it. Join your favorite WVON personalities June 5th through the 7th at Millennium Park for this event. Friday night, we're celebrating 55 years of Alligator Records with tribute to Coco Taylor, Lonnie Brooks, Hound Dog Taylor, and Chris Stone, Kingfish Ingram. Saturday, we're bringing 75 years of Chicago blues to the main stage, featuring Chicago's own Billy Branch, Kenny Neal, and Ronnie Baker Brooks. And we'll close out the weekend on Sunday with the legendary Taj Mahal and their Phantom Blues Band. A special tribute to women in blues featuring Lynn Jordan and the Shivers, Melody Angel, and Deetra Farr. And keep listening for a chance to win an exclusive VIP Blues Fest experience. For more information, visit WVON.com/events. Brought to you by Mayor Brandon Johnson and DKs.
WVON traffic and weather now.
It's rough out there this morning, starting with the inbound side of the Stevenson. Just about an hour now as you make your way inbound from I-355 to DuSable Drive. That's due to that earlier accident at Cass involving two semis. One of the semis leaking fuel. The other one, there's thousands of pounds of metal coils apparently now all over the roadways. A big cleanup is happening right now where 3 lanes are blocked. As you make your way on the outbound side of the Stevenson, a 50-minute trip, obviously we're looking at gate delays because of that inbound accident. Turning to the Ryan, 30 minutes from 95th Street into downtown. Both the Bishop Ford and Tuskegee Memorial, about an 18-minute trip to the Ryan. DuSable Lakeshore Drive just bumped up to 21 minutes from 67th Street to Jackson, 20 minutes from Hollywood to Monroe. If you're on the Eisenhower, you're looking at an hour 10 from Thorndale to the Burns Circle, outbound an hour. And the Kennedy, a new accident at Division, that inbound trip now 55 from O'Hare to downtown. Outbound, creeping along at 54 minutes. Taking a look at our weather, cloudy and humid. The National Weather Service says we could see some scattered showers as temperatures climb near 77. We're up to 70 at Midway. It's 70 in West Garfield and 70 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm in Flournoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
If you're not out of the bed yet, then what are you waiting for? It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on 1690 WVON.
VON's
fellow with a small head, and he wasn't even considered a great military.
Back to more of my conversation with Jasper Craven, God Forgives, Brothers Don't, an interview that I did with him about his book, which is available today on VONtv. Power, yet militarism is woven deeply into our culture, just as you explained. How do we reconcile that contradiction?
Well, yeah, it's tricky. I mean, my sense is that from America's earliest moments through today, the citizenry remains largely anti-war and largely anti-militarism. There's certainly a skepticism, I should say, of military power. And while America has waged a handful of conflicts that, had some moral core, the last 3/4 of a century have been marked by really morally vacuous conflicts that have produced needless bloodshed and have really starved domestic priorities. And so it's hard to understand how, the wishes of the people to focus on, strengthening schools and healthcare and just sort of providing in a fundamental way for daily life cannot happen. I mean, certainly there are a litany of data points that show how the military maintains this grip, from the fact that virtually every, congressional district has a weapons contractor of some sort building a specialized part for some, system within the cogs of the military machine. The economy is largely oriented around defense at this point. So there are sort of these pressures, plus all of the lobbying from defense contractors and the sort of residual respect for military service that citizens do have, in large part because it's kind of like the last real universally accepted form of public service. Obviously there are teachers, nurses, things like that, but I think there is a certain sort of respect built into our history and our customs for the military that allows its leaders great leeway to continue engaging in hostilities and to really continue to amass power, really.
Yeah, the amassing of power is kind of what challenges things because, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're seeing a lot of that today. As we think about this whole thing, and the military is all around discipline, at what point did military discipline evolve into something darker, into emotional suppression and domination, and what many would now call toxic masculinity?
Yeah, well, beginning research for this book, I had some sense of the worst abuses at military schools today. Really dark, violent, torturous treatment of young cadets. And I wasn't sure what I would find in history. But what quickly became clear is that West Point, which is sort of the foundational military school upon which all other military programs take inspiration, developed intense hazing and dehumanization very early on. There is a story I write about in the book of a young cadet named Oscar Boaz, who by all accounts was morally upstanding, very smart, independent-minded. On paper, I would argue an ideal candidate to become a future Army leader. However, he took umbrage with some of the intense abuse that he was enduring as a plebe. He spoke up for himself. He defended himself. He felt like certain cadet leaders were abusing power, were being corrupted by it. And this independent streak made him a target. He was forced into West Point's underground fight club, which was very brutal, sent many cadets to the hospital. West Point custodial staff often found bloodied shirts and sheets after these bouts. And, he was embarrassed in front of his classmates. He was beat up. He was also forced simultaneously or amidst this all to undergo a litany of other sort of hazing rites, including the forced consumption of Tabasco, I should say, hot sauce, which basically destroyed his larynx. He got an infection there, had to be sent home, and then died. This was in 1900. And so, really a lot of this abuse is inherent to the system. But I should say, there are also many stories I have heard in which this system is better regulated.
We'll hold this right here. Go to Bound and Woven. Check out the entirety of it. You can get it on Roku, Apple TV Plus. You can get it at the WVON app, or just go to VON.tv. This one will be up today. There'll be another one up later this week. Go check them all out. I promise you they will not waste your time and certainly will enhance your thought. Let's find out from Annette what's going on in the news. When we come back, it's time for Wealth Strategies with Khomeini Khan.
Cloudy and humid as temperatures climb into the upper 70s. Good morning. I'm Anna Flournoy, and here's what's happening. Funeral services are set for a veteran Chicago firefighter who died last week. Stephen Decker passed away Thursday during a training exercise. The medical examiner's office says he died from natural causes. A visitation for Decker is set for Thursday at Colonial Wojciechowski Funeral Homes of Chicago. The funeral takes place Friday at St. Paul Lutheran Church. Chicago police are increasing patrol at places of worship. This comes after a deadly mosque shooting in Orlando. 5 people are dead, including the alleged teenage shooters. This morning, investigators there are still trying to figure out a motive. Apparently, one of the teens' mother reached out to police saying her son had taken the car and some guns and talked about suicide.
Her son was with a companion, and that at approximately 11:43, that there was an active shooter at the Islamic Center.
Authorities say the teens, 17 and 18, walked inside the Islamic Center and started shooting, killing 3 men and later taking their own lives. Among those killed was a mosque security guard and father of 8, who police believe played a pivotal role in keeping the attack from being much worse. Local authorities say there's no known threat here in Chicago, but they are taking precautions. NFL leaders are meeting in Orlando today, and the Bears are expected to update the league on where things stand on Arlington Heights versus a stadium in Indiana. Today's meeting is happening as lawmakers in Springfield are still debating the mega projects bill that could give the Bears tax breaks to build in Arlington Heights. We just learned this morning that Mayor Brandon Johnson will be on WVON with Matt McGill later today. The mayor hasn't given up on his pitch to keep the Bears in Chicago. However, that idea frustrates Governor Pritzker, who says the mayor is late to the pitch party.
The mayor has shown up every spring at the end of session to pronounce what he would like to see happen. And as you know, the budget gets put together starting in November.
The mayor's office says Johnson does not support a privately owned stadium, and the city's proposal is the only plan that centers on public ownership that won't burden taxpayers while keeping the Bears in Chicago. Well, that's a look at our news now on 1690 WVON. Traffic and weather up next. WVON News Time, 8:35.
Hey, Alexa, play WVON 1690 AM.
Getting WVON 1690 AM station from iHeartRadio.
Try it out for yourself. America is listening to WVON.
Hey, Chicago, this one is for you. Join OG Mr. Rick for the OG Culture Report every Thursday night from 9 to 12 right here on WVON 1690 AM. We're talking the culture, our stories, the streets, politics, entertainment, our struggles, our wins, and the voices that matter. Don't miss it. Every Thursday night, 9 to 12, the OG Culture Report with yours truly, OG Mr. Rick on WVON 1690. That's it. That's all.
WVON's Health Awareness Month, sponsored in part by OSF Complete Care 55+. This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Buying custom blinds shouldn't be complicated or stressful. That's why Blindster.com makes it simple and affordable. You measure, you install, and you save big on custom blinds. Ordering takes minutes, installation is easy, and they guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com. With your help, the Illinois Lottery generated $784 million for education last year. Play all your favorite Illinois Lottery games today to help raise even more. Be smart, play smart. Must be 18 or older to play. Game odds are available at IllinoisLottery.com.
It's DL Hughley.
When you see things like what happened in Virginia, where they had a special election and expanded seats for the Democrats, Republicans have been putting their fingers on the scale of the elections forever. They've always done it. They always gerrymandered. But now they have gerrymandered everything to the nth degree that they don't have any more room to gerrymander. And now these Democrats have picked up 10 to 12 seats. Even after this is all over, we got to get back to people who are involved in the pedophile ring. We got to get back to ICE brutalizing people. So the war is a distraction, but from some pretty horrible that we got to get back to.
Weekdays at 5 a.m. on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
I've tried everything to stand out at work. Donuts, a company coffee blend, even dressed as the company mascot for Halloween.
There's an easier way, a ComEd facility assessment. Their engineer gave my company free insights and actions that saved us $732,000 on energy. Easy, right?
Learn how ComEd can help you save at ComEd.com/facility assessment. ComEd, powering lives. Savings will vary based on customers' usage and rate.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
This report is brought to you by the Hartford Auto Insurance. Wait until you hear this. You could save hundreds by switching to AARP Auto Insurance from the Hartford. Visit trusthartford.com. The Hartford, Your protection is their passion. The Hartford Insurance Group, Inc. pays royalty fees to AARP for the use of its intellectual property. AARP and its affiliates are non-insurers. Savings vary.
The following is paid programming. The views are not necessarily those of this station. It's time for the Wealth Strategy Show with Khomeini Khan, powered by Optimal Planning Partners.
Khomeini Khan, certified financial planner professional, offers securities through Equitable Advisors, LLC, New York, New York, 212-314-4600. Member FINRA, SIPC, Equitable Financial Advisors in Michigan and Tennessee. Annuity and insurance products offered through Equitable Network, LLC, and does not provide tax or legal advice. Individuals may transact business and or respond to inquiries only in states in which they are properly registered and or licensed. This informational and educational radio segment does not offer or constitute and should not be relied upon as financial, business, or tax advice.
It gets so hard, just trying to figure it out, fight it out, trying to believe God, trying to watch the words in my mouth and stay on the ride. Trouble come and go, even on the mountain high, on the valley low. Never let your faith go. Oh, never let your faith go. I've been there before, so confused, don't know which way to go. Stressed out, world so crazy, miles to stay in the house. Fear trying to rise up, got terrorists disguised. They look like us, but we know who we trust. Just when I say that we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Tell them, we gon' be alright. Alright. Say we gon' be alright.
Welcome back. As we do on Tuesdays at this time, happy to have join me in the studio, Mr. Khomeini Khan, to talk about wealth strategies, as we always do at the beginning, at the top. Khomeini, talk about why it's important that we have a segment like this.
Yeah, thank you, Rufus. Of course, good morning to you. Good morning to the crew. Good morning to the listeners. Thank you for joining us again for your Tuesday check-in with your money. I certainly appreciate everybody being here. Rufus, the reason it's important that we continue to have a segment like this, because just like we say and remind listeners every single week, it's important that we continue to have these conversations, particularly in our community, around building wealth for ourselves, building wealth for our family, and also even talk about some strategies around protecting that wealth, because it's one thing to build it, it's another thing to protect it. And so each and every week, we're going to have a different topic, do a deep dive and go into it to give the listeners a different perspective about ways of building wealth, everything from investing in the stock market to home ownership, building equity, business ownership. So all these different ideas and strategies we're going to talk about and be able to share with the listeners. So hopefully they can be able to use some of these things on their own.
Last week's conversation fits so perfectly in the panel that I led for the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Corporation. I told them, if you had just listened to my show this morning, you would have gotten all this information already.
Yeah.
So make sure you tune in next week. So I suspect some of them are listening now.
Good.
As we talk about something that's really important to everyone that we don't have enough of. And this topic also came up there last week. Tell us what we're talking about today. What's the tip?
All right, so we're going to continue with the theme of insurance this month. And so, of course, last week we talked about life insurance.
Right.
This week we're going to talk about understanding disability insurance and long-term care insurance. So both really important topics, and we're going to do a deep dive today to give the listeners some perspective on these different types of insurance.
Disability and long-term care. Why is it important to understand these types of insurance policies?
You know, it is really important to understand these type of policies and insurance in general, because, you know, the way that we look at insurance from a financial planning perspective, it's really an important part of your overall foundation. It's that thing that protects you and your family from unknown risk, you know, those what ifs in life, right? And so insurance planning is really essential, because when you think about it, insurance planning is really about protecting you against an unexpected loss. Excuse me. That loss can be like from an accident, a health incident, disability, or even death. And so if you don't have proper insurance coverage, you think about it from this perspective, then you're bearing all of that risk on your own, right? So if anything happens, you don't have health insurance and you get sick, then you're going to be on the hook for that very large bill. And so doesn't it make more sense? My question is, doesn't it make more sense if we can to pass that risk on to a company, ideally an insurance company, to be able to cover us from those type of financial losses. And that's the reason we have health insurance and auto insurance, homeowners, to really protect us from a financial loss. And so in the same way, we look at disability income insurance and long-term care insurance as a way to be able to pass that risk of a financial loss onto a company.
It's risk management.
It is
And
risk
things are good. Stuff happens and stuff is going to happen. The question is, are you going to be able to handle it when it happens? And insurance and these things are a way to do that. So let's get to it. What is disability income insurance?
Yeah, and I appreciate that question. And so let me just give a quick disclaimer real quick. And so, of course, the information we talk about today is educational. It's not meant to be any sort of specific investment advice and doesn't necessarily represent the opinion of Equitable. But, of course, we want to educate the listeners about it. And so your question, what is disability insurance? So disability insurance really it's a financial protection type of insurance. It's designed to be able to replace a portion of our income if we should suffer an injury or an illness. So it really is designed to be able to give you some income if you're injured, because a lot of people, we live paycheck to paycheck. That's not everybody, but even if you're not living paycheck to paycheck, if you become disabled, you become injured, you're not able to work for an extended period of time, and that, there is no income coming into the household, that can be very tough. And so disability income insurance is designed that, if we're not able to work because of an accident or sickness, to allow income to still be coming into the household so you can take care of those financial obligations for you and the family. That's what it is.
Important, because if the money's not coming in, no matter what, it's an issue. No matter how much you have, it's going to impact you. He says it's going to be tough. That's an understatement.
It's going to be tough. And you know what? A lot of people, when we think about kind of disability insurance, sometimes we think like, oh, I need to be in a wheelchair or something like that. But I think it kind of shifted a little bit during COVID because a lot of people were not able to work when they got sick and for an extended period of time. So it doesn't have to be something like, you're in a wheelchair. It can be, I can't work because of some kind of sickness or I got into a car accident. And so that's where this type of insurance policy really helps with you and your family.
Important. Talk about then some of the key features, some of the statistics, some of the things around disability insurance.
Yeah, so just a couple of interesting stats around disability I like to kind of, share with the listeners. And so the likelihood of a person becoming disabled, according to the Council for Disability Awareness, 1 in 4 workers before retirement will experience some kind of disability. 1 in 4. That's huge, right? The average duration or the amount of time that a person is disabled is about 2.5 years.
Wow.
And so that's the average if you become disabled. And then only 40% of companies actually carry long-term care insurance. And most people, not long-term care, disability insurance. And most people actually are, they get their disability insurance through their job. Most people, although you can get it on your own, but most people get it through the job, but only 40% of companies carry it. And so that means most people are actually uninsured when it comes to disability insurance. And that's why we need to be aware of it.
Very important. 25% of the people are going to get it. It's going to last for 2.5 years on average. And a lot of companies don't, more than half the companies don't have it.
Yep.
So that's what we're up against. What are some of the key features of disability insurance?
So just understanding what disability is and some of the key features around it. There are some key provisions when you get a policy or you attain a policy or even the policy you have through the job, right? And so this is to help you understand it. And so the first key feature, of course, is about the income replacement. The whole point of a disability income policy is to be able to replace the income that you're no longer receiving. And so that typically is about anywhere between 50 to 70% of your income. You get to, depending on if you pick the policy or the company picks the policy, somewhere between 50 to 70% of what it will replace. There's something called a waiting period. The waiting period is from the moment that you become disabled. Typically, there's a certain amount of time you have to wait before the benefits kick in. And that could range anywhere from 30 days to, a year. And so just making sure that you understand what that is, because you'll be on the hook for some amount of money before that policy kicks in, whether you have it or not. You also have the benefit period. The benefit period is, once you apply for disability, how long is it going to last? Is it going to last 1 year? Is it going to last 5 years? It can actually go all the way up until you're retired. So depending on what the policy is, so understand those provisions. Another key feature about this type of policy is that the different policies will define what disability is differently. So it's very important that you understand how they define disability. So for example, one way to define disability is called own occupation, your own occupation. So if you're a specialist, let's say that you're a surgeon or an attorney, and you can't perform your job, which is very specialized, then that benefit will kick in, right? So it's a very specialized kind of job. Whereas another definition is called any occupation, which means that you can perform any occupation, but if you can't perform any occupation, now the benefits kick in. So if you can imagine, that's a much higher threshold, meaning that, they're not going to pay benefits if you can't do just your job, but anybody's job. So it's important to understand these different distinctions.
Very important. Somebody's got to read.
You got to read the fine print, and that's the point of working with an advisor like myself, to make sure that I can read it for you, I can explain it to you, but making sure you also understand too.
This is indeed why you pay the pros to do these things. So, what are some of the pros and cons then? Why would people do it, and why would they not?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, obviously, these type of policies do have a cost associated with them. And the different costs will be based on factors like your age, the occupation you're in, your income, your health status. And so if we think about it from that perspective, some of the benefits, of course, is it does protect us against the loss of income. That's the most important thing. That's what we wanted to do. We also, from a benefit perspective, it really helps to cover ongoing expenses. Think about things like mortgage, utility bills, and things like that. If you're unable to work, that's another benefit. And also, ideally, it reduces the financial stress that you would have, because if you're already trying to recover from a sickness or an accident, just having to worry about trying to pay the bills on top of that, that's an additional stressor. So the benefit is that it removes at least that stressor. Now, on the con side, or the opposite side of the table, it can be costly depending on how much of a benefit you have, and so if you have it through the job, that's a great thing. Maybe you're not paying for it out your pocket, but you also do have the ability to get it on your own, and it can potentially be expensive depending on how much benefit you want. On the con side, like I mentioned before, there's something called an elimination period, which means that the disability insurance doesn't kick in until a certain amount of days after your disability. So you have to be able to at least be financially prepared to cover those days. And then in some cases, it can have some exclusions if you have some pre-existing conditions, like if you have a heart condition or, you've been disabled in the past, they might exclude those specific conditions. And so just understanding the ins and outs of this type of policy can really go a long way to making sure that you have the right coverage for you and your family.
That's important, because particularly the waiting period, you're disabled when you become disabled.
That's right.
I'm disabled today. I'm not going to get less disabled at another point, but this is what the policies call for. So you really have to look at them. You talked about disability income insurance. Yeah. Talk about long-term care insurance. What's the difference in the two?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because they're very similar type of policies in that they want to be, we want to have them to be able to cover us from financial losses. But what long-term care insurance actually is, it's a policy that helps cover expenses related to long-term care services. And so we think about things like assisted living facilities, or what we call activities of daily living. And so just to do those things that you need to do on a daily basis to just live, the eating and, feeding yourself, dressing, bathing, toileting, these are what we call activities of daily living. And if you can't do these certain things, this policy will help pay for someone to come into, a house or a facility to help cover those costs, because those costs can be substantial. Anyone who has done, who's provided services for, family member or, anything like that, then we know that, it can be a lot, and if you hired someone through those services, it can be very expensive. And so the purpose of this type of policy is to be able to help offset those costs as compared to kind of spending down your assets to pay for this type of service.
Yeah, we've talked about caretaking in different situations. So this is
Absolutely.
the same kind of thing that helps take care of that. Talk about, if you would, some of the key features of
Yeah. So some of the key
long-term care.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rufus. Some of the key features around long-term care, and just a quick distinction. So when we think about disability insurance is really during our working years. So if we have an accident or sickness and not able to do what we need to do, it helps cover us during our working years. But a lot of time, long-term care, many people think about it post-retirement, although it could be possible while you're still working. But in many cases, it's kind of a post-retirement thing to make sure that you can live a certain lifestyle and be comfortable and protect you for the long term. But some of the key statistics I want to share in the same way around long-term care to kind of bring people's attention. So the cost of care, let me just share a quick statistic. And so the average cost of a private room in a nursing home, because, we don't want to end up in a nursing home. Nobody does, but in some cases, just people do. You may need that level of care. The average cost is $108,000 per year.
Wow,
very substantial. The average cost to be in an assisted living facility, and so you don't need as much help as a nursing home, but you still need some help, is actually about $54,000 per year. So still a substantial cost. Here's a very interesting statistic. So 70% of people age 65 or older will require some form of long-term care in their lifetime. That is 7 out of 10 people. And I think a lot of people, we know it, but we don't necessarily try to think about it. And so if you think about it just from a statistic standpoint, 70% likelihood that we'll need some kind of care. This is about preparation, right? This is about, hopefully we never need it, but you have to be prepared because statistics say 70% chance that you may need that care. You need to have something in place. You need to have a plan. You need to talk to your family around what happens if I should need these type of services. How am I going to pay for it? Is it going to be my Social Security? Is it going to be my retirement funds? Do I have a policy? This is a conversation you need to have with your family so they're aware, because this is a tremendous financial burden, which is becoming more and more as we live longer and longer. So this is just about understanding what it is so you can be prepared. And another statistic is only about less than 10% of Americans have long-term care insurance. And so we know we're going to need it, but only 10% have it. And so that's an equation for a big financial loss for yourself and your family.
It's a lot to think about in there. Talk about some of the pros and cons of long-term care insurance.
Yeah, and so when we think about long-term care insurance, a couple of different pieces I want to kind of just touch on real quick. And so the policy is designed, like I mentioned earlier, to cover you in certain type of situations. Most people want to be able to stay in their home if they should need these type of services. And so when we think about it from that standpoint, the policy can cover you in your home and have someone come out to your home and be able to pay for that service. Of course, I mentioned assisted living facility, nursing home facility, but it actually even covers adult daycare. And so that's just some of the ways that it covers you. Some of the benefits around it, is typically going to pay a monthly or annual. So it may pay, say, okay, $3,000 a month, $10,000 a month. And so it's going to pay a flat amount. And it could be either reimbursed or they could pay you up front, depending on the type of policy it is. So again, it's important to understand it. And then you think about it from a duration, right? How long is this policy going to last? And so it can last anywhere from a few years to your lifetime. And so just really depends on the policy, but some of those more specific benefits around having that policy, of course, it helps protect your savings and your assets from being depleted. When I talk to my clients about long-term care, and, we can really have 2-3 episodes on long-term care, but it really is about protecting your assets. If you don't have many assets, then, there are a lot of different ways you can think about or cover long-term care, but the more assets you have, the more this is relevant to you, because it's about protecting those assets so you don't have to spend them down. Because if you have to go into a nursing home and it's $108,000 a year, you can imagine that can go through retirement funds very quickly. It can be very flexible depending on, where you want to do that care, whether it be in your home or in a facility. So that's a benefit. And of course, it reduces the financial strain and burden on a family. On the flip side, the cost and the premiums can be expensive, because you can imagine a company being on the hook for $108,000 a year. Obviously the premiums can be costly depending on the situation. In some situations, these policies are use it or lose it. Not always, but that's a con. And of course, you do have underwriting. So, you have to apply for these policies. You have to be relatively healthy. If you're at the point where you already need long-term care,
probably not going to get it.
Probably not going to be able to get it. Just like life insurance, if you apply for it,
when you're dying, you're probably not going to get it.
There you go. You got to get these things before you need it, and be, you can have some conditions, some, health ailments, but not too many to be able to qualify for this. And then there are some limitations as it relates to the coverage. And so just from a pro-con perspective, obviously there are a lot of benefits of having it, and we know statistically most people will need it. And so it's important to just be able to educate yourself about what this is, how this can benefit my family, but also understanding the upsides and downsides of what it is and what it is not.
A lot to be covered around insurance. We're going to do some more next week.
So next week, we're actually going to jump into health insurance. And obviously that's a big one. We could probably do 2, 3, 4 episodes on health insurance.
We might.
We might. But we're just going to kind of cover the basics, give the listeners, some more ins and outs to understand around health insurance. And, maybe you got a health insurance policy, don't understand what co-insurance versus a copay. We're going to get into that, make sure that you have a better understanding about what you have.
Fantastic. Always great information. And folks, I know people have been trying to get in, ask questions. We cannot take questions during this segment, but you can reach Khomeini by phone or text. Just go to 630-575-5046, 630-575-5046. Also, you can go to the website, WVONwealthshow.com. It's WVONwealthshow.com. Fill out a contact card or complete the Discovery Financial Survey. Get started today. Khomeini?
Yeah, thank you, Rufus. I really appreciate it. I know these insurance topics can be heavy. We're talking about them, just a lot of heavy, serious stuff. And so, the purpose is just to give you a little bit of information. So like Rufus said, please reach out to me. I'm willing to, sit down with you one-on-one. We do home visits. We do virtual calls. You can come to the office. We'll sit down with you and make sure that you understand these type of policies. Make sure you understand this coverage so you can really make sure that, you have peace of mind if that day should ever come. So again, 630-575-5046. Thank you again, Rufus. I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking next week. And thank you to the listeners.
It's always good. You put a lot on our minds when you do this. And a lot of people either have or don't have, or at least need to think about whether they do. So make sure that you reach out. Equitable Advisors, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, a broker-dealer, Equitable Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. As always, Annette, so appreciate you for giving us all the information that gets us through the day. And Titus, thanks for keeping all these things together. At least today we had a chance to talk to people. We run hard and we don't. I don't know what's on my schedule for tomorrow, but I assure you, we're going to talk about this $1.8 billion slush fund that they are giving to Donald Trump to pay off his allies. I don't know what's on my schedule. We're talking about that tomorrow. And I'll ask you, as I always do, as you go through the course of the day, you will come across people who are dealing with things that you know absolutely nothing about. So please be kind always. And with that, Annette, tell us what's in the headlines, and T-Dub, take us home.
Cloudy and muggy. Temps are expected to remain in the 70s on this Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. I'm Annette Flornoy in the headlines. As we head into the Memorial Day holiday weekend, police and community leaders are looking at ways to get in front of those so-called teen takeovers. Chicago police are increasing patrols at places of worship following a deadly mosque shooting in Orlando. And we just learned this morning that Mayor Brandon Johnson will be on WVON with Matt McGill this afternoon. National news from the Black Information Network is next on Chicago's original social media platform, 1690 AM WVON, Berwyn, Chicago. It's 9:03.
First, here's VI News now. President Trump says more prescription drugs are being added to the Trump RX website.
So we've slashed the price of dozens of commonly used prescription drugs by differences of 400, 500, and even 600%.
Speaking at the White House event, he said the expansion will significantly increase discounted medications and could save Americans hundreds of billions in costs. Memphis police say a bomb threat forced an evacuation at the National Civil Rights Museum over the weekend. The facility was cleared as a precaution while authorities searched the area. No explosives were found, and the incident came the same day the museum unveiled its new legacy experience. And Kanye West's planned concert in India has been canceled after a series of European show disruptions. Organizers say the New Delhi event set for May 23rd was called off due to security concerns. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app. Back to Terry McCready.
Police are providing more details after 2 suspects and 3 adult victims were killed during an active duty shooting event at the Islamic Center of San Diego. Police Chief Scott Wall said police initially got a call from the mother of one of the 2 suspected teenage shooters, warning that her son took several weapons and a car from her home.
The information that she was gathering and conveying to us began to elevate the threat level that we were perceiving with this information.
Police then received a call about an active shooter at the Islamic Center. When arriving at the scene, police found 3 deceased adults, including a security guard. Wall said authorities were later notified about gunfire a couple of blocks away, and officers found the 2 suspects dead inside a car from apparent self-inflicted gunshot wounds. A landscaper who was working in the area was shot at but uninjured. The investigation is ongoing and involves the FBI. Police say hate rhetoric was involved in the attack but would not offer more details. President Trump says the